So welcome back guys to We Talk Boxing, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the fight which took place between Carlos Adames versus Hamzah Sheeraz. Now this was one of the fights on the undercard of the main event which took place between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol, the two. Now it was a very good fight for both guys. Hamzah Sheeraz point of view, probably he would probably be disappointed. I'm probably disappointed because I expected a little bit more from Sheeraz, but it was a very good performance from Carlos Adames. Now this was the first time I've properly seen Carlos Adames fight, and I'm impressed. I'm impressed with Adames. He brought the fight to Hamzah Sheeraz. He looked like the one that was going to make something happen. He looked like the one that potentially could get the stoppage. For me, on a personal note, I had him winning the fight. I had him won the fight. I don't know what the scorecards were all about. I'm very disappointed in the scoring. Let's talk about the scoring actually. Like, one of the judges had it, I think it was 150, 114, I think, in favour, was it, of Hamzah, I think? And then one had it 118, 110 in favour of Carlos Adames, something like that. And then the other one had it 114, 114. I would have to go back and listen to the scoring. I'm just reading it off BoxRec now, but the scoring, when I heard it, was very disappointed. I don't know how they got the 118, 110 scorecard. That just blows my mind. I'm sure that 118, 110 was for Hamzah. Don't quote me on that. I'm sure it was for Hamzah. But anyhow, the fight was scored a draw, split decision draw. For me, the wrong decision. I felt as if Carlos Adames won the fight. I don't know how the judges or a judge for Hamzah Sheeraz won the fight. I just can't see it. He didn't do enough for me. He was always on the back foot for the whole fight. He was always reactive rather than proactive in terms of letting his hands go. He was the bigger man in terms of size, but he wasn't the stronger man in there, and he wasn't the one who looked as if he had the bigger power. That was Carlos Adames, and his hand speed and his punch combinations, his head movement, body movement was just too much for Hamzah Sheeraz. Now, the fight ultimately was scored a draw. Now, that means that the pair potentially are most likely going to probably have a rematch. Or potentially, Hamzah, I would probably say, would probably duck Carlos Adames because he knows that that's such a tough fight. He did complain at the end of the fight, and he, like, when the cameras were pointing to his right hand, was it his right hand? I think his right hand, how swollen it was. So potentially he might have fractured a bone there potentially, or ligament, who knows. But you can't really use that as an excuse, really, because you're in there. Do you know what I mean? If it was like David Haye, when David Haye fought Tony Bellew and his Achilles went, I fully understand that, because if your Achilles goes, you can't walk. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you're punching, yes, it's going to be very painful every time you throw that hand, but you're in a fight. Do you know what I mean? You've got no choice but to throw it. You've got no choice. But if you can't walk, you can't walk. You're at a full disadvantage with the David Haye one. So I kind of get that one there. But there's been plenty of fighters that have fought with broken hands, and sometimes or most of the time they've got the victory. Do you know what I mean? They've somehow put that to the side. But I just personally couldn't have given this fight to Hamzah Sheeraz, and I like Sheeraz. I fully believe Sheeraz could potentially be one of the next big, you know what I mean, 160 pounders, but I just can't see where this scorecard came from the judges. Very poor judging from my point of view. As I said, I'm sure that 180, 110 was for Hamzah Sheeraz. I don't know where that came from. Blew my mind when I heard it, and I just personally felt that maybe Turkey Al Sheikh probably had something to do with that. I don't know. Obviously, that's just hearing say. That's just my thoughts, but it's one of them. It's one of them. But yeah, I'm very impressed with Carlos Adames' performance. First time seeing him fight, and yeah, he's got something. He's got something. Yeah, let's wait and see what happens with him. Hamzah Sheeraz, no doubtly has to rest that hand. Probably might, if it's broken, he probably have to have maybe surgery potentially on that hand. We don't really know, so I'm not too sure there. But if it's not broken, then He probably have what 6 to 8 weeks out and then come back. Meaning, in the meantime, Carlos Adames might have another fight, because if you think if Hamzah Sheeraz is going to be out for, let's say, 8 weeks or 12 weeks, he still has to have a camp after that. So that's still another 8 or 12 week camp. So he could be out for 6 months, Hamzah Sheeraz. I'm not saying he will, but he could be out. You know what I mean? So Carlos Adames most likely will fight before that as well. Now, could he look to maybe try and unify maybe with Alara or Janabek? Maybe. You know what I mean? After that performance, depending on what happens with Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, could he look to try and maybe fight Carlos Adames? Because Chris Eubank Jr., sorry, is mandatory for Carlos Adames. So could that fight happen? And I'm not saying could that fight happen next, because we know that Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, I think they're fighting in April. And we're now obviously February, so there's a couple of months there. He will have to probably have time off and then fight again. So Carlos Adames could try and maybe get a unified fight between now and then. But these are my thoughts in regards to the fight between Carlos Adames and Hamzah Sheeraz. Disappointed with Shiraz's performance personally. I felt and I thought that Sheeraz was going to probably be a little bit too much for Carlos Adames, only because I hadn't seen Adames fight before, and having seen Adames fight how the way he did, and knowing how Hamzah Sheeraz fights, it's the wrong fight. It's the wrong fight. So once he's fully healed and that, if he has no other options for a world title, yeah, go back in and run it again. But if you have options, preferably go against maybe a Janabek or a Lara, because their styles are different. And the only reason why I'd probably say Lara, because Lara's probably more on the older side, so I'd probably say that maybe youth might give him the edge in terms of Hamzah Sheeraz. But certainly against the Janabek, I think Janabek's style with Hamzah will be a lot better, because he hasn't got as much movement. Do you know what I mean? He's more rigid. He is a good boxer. He's got good power, but he's a little bit more rigid and upright, which favours Hamzah Sheeraz. But someone who's got that Mike Tyson, El Clasico body movement, head movement, footwork, slickness, is all wrong. Is all wrong for Hamzah. But these are my thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you see the fight how I saw it? Did you probably scored it a draw? Or did you score it for Hamzah Sheeraz? And what next for both men? What next for Carlos Adames? Would you wait it out until Hamzah's fully fit to fight again, or would you go again and maybe try and unify, or maybe fight someone who's a mandatory, like a Eubank Jr.? And what about Hamzah? You know what I mean? How long are you going to be out for? Do you potentially look to go back in there with Adames, or maybe look to go in there with a different world title challenger in that division? Let me know your thoughts, and as always, please subscribe and comment. Bless.